All right, so welcome. This is Beck Barnes and Jim Steadman of Cotton Grower Magazine coming at you live from the prestigious Cotton Grower Studios here in Memphis, Tennessee with the Cotton Companion podcast here. This is almost starting the second week of October. Whether you're joining us from the high plains of Texas or the High Point neighborhood here in Memphis, Tennessee, we appreciate you hitting these cotton industry highlights with us today. I am joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Mr. Jim Steadman. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Beck, and I can guarantee that regardless of where you're standing, fall has finally arrived.
Yeah, well, you've probably looked at the national map. I know all I've done is stepped outside today, and I know that it's that way here in Memphis. I was actually just belly aching about how I feel like it's a little too cool already out there. It's kind of it's probably mid-60s right now out there, which is too, if you know me, you know that's too cold.
Little tiny violins playing all over the place.
Yeah, right. But I do know, along with that, or what's ushered this little cool front end is that it rained for the first time in, forever. I think it was the second rain event we've had since what feels like the end of July here in the...
It may very well have been.
Yeah, it's been droughty, and it stormed pretty good overnight. I mean, it was thundering and storming. I think I saw as much as an inch and a half to 2 inches in some spots here in the city. So, brought some cool weather with it, which I guess is all right. I know that for a lot of y'all farmers, y'all have been enjoying all this dry stuff as you got this crop in. I know that there's farmers in North Mississippi I talked with, told me over the weekend going into the weekend, they still lacked about two-thirds of their crop to get in. And, of course, they were all eyeballing this rain that was going to come in on Sunday night. So there's a lot of y'all here in the river counties of the Mid-South, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Missouri, who I know we're burning the midnight oil getting that crop in over the weekend. So we hope that it slows down a little for y'all. We know the end is in sight from coast to coast in the belt. So we wish you good weather and safe picking from here on out, to be sure. I'll tell you, speaking of that, Jim, and you're aware of this, I got out to see a little bit of the belt. I got out to an area that I don't often get to, and that was down to Louisiana last week. I went down, actually stayed across the river in Natchez, Mississippi, and was down there for a BASF E3 cotton event where, to be honest with you, to tell on myself a little bit, I didn't read my invitation quite as close as I should have, and packed a quick bag after we got done with the October issue last week and hopped in the rental car, and I packed like I would pack to go to any event that I go to over the course of the year, which is to say my blue jeans and my standard issue Columbia fishing shirt. I was going to be a farming tour. I thought I was going to be hanging out with farmers down there. And I get down to Natchez, Mississippi, and they were staying at the Grand Hotel, and I get there just in time for the kickoff reception event, and I walk into the lobby, and man, it was everybody in the room was in skinny jeans and very hip outfits, and everybody had on the flat-brimmed cowboy hat that like brooding alt-country music star would have on. And I'm going, man, am I in the right spot? And I can't remember if I even told you this, but I saw Bob Antashak was the first familiar face I've seen who's long time been associated with that E3 program and FiberMax back before BASF had these two seed brands and taken over this program. And so anyhow, Bob assured me I was in the right spot, but I was there not with farmers, but with fashion industry people who represented a lot of big retail fashion brands and the people who source material to make all those fashionable shirts and blue jeans and everything. And I mean, I think, again, Jim, I can't even remember if I ran all this past you, but some of those, I talked with people from JCPenney and big outlets. I think they told me that, I know I talked to some ladies from Land's End and big places. I think they told me Gap was there, and anyhow, it was about 40 of them, down to smaller retailers. I made friends with the guy out of Nashville who runs Imogene and Willie, which is a fashion brand I knew nothing about, but my wife freaked out when I told her that I made friends with that guy. So if I apparently...
Did she ask if you got a discount?
Yeah, right. Yeah, apparently the ladies, your wives, women would know all about it. Or folks who follow fashion would know all about it, I should say. So anyhow, got out in the field, We actually went across the river, and BASF had them speaking with Jay Hardwick's sons, Meade Hardwick, and I believe his brother's name is Marshall, and they were telling them about all the sustainable practices that they do there, and economically sound, environmentally sound, talking about how they take care of their labor. It was really neat, and those two on the Hardwick's farm really did our industry proud. But I say all this to say those 40 fashion industry folks they're in sourcing. They're the ones who make the call of whether they're going to make a shirt with cotton or with whatever, nylon or
something
polyester
else.
Or something else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are the people who make that decision. And they were very earnest, very eager to listen to what those Hardwick boys were saying. I call them boys, they're my age. They're mid-30s. They got kids of their own. Boys in the sense that they're Jay's sons. Anyhow, I've seen on social media before a lot of farmers kind of question whether anybody cares about the environmentally sound practices that y'all do out there. And I'm here to tell you, I rode along in a bus tour with 40 of these people who are the decision makers of whether or not they care about that sustainability stuff. And to a person, all of them had a notepad out and were taking notes and writing down everything that BASF's representatives and the farmers that they met with and the Jenners that they met with were saying. And so it matters. The stuff that y'all do, the little decrease in, whatever the sustainable checkpoints you're trying to check off. You're decreasing an application of something, or you're making more efficient use of your water. That matters, man. Those people care about it, and this cotton industry did itself well, acquitted itself well in front of that crowd, thanks to that BASF E3 program. I'll be writing about that in our next issue, and I'll quit rambling about it now. But I just wrap it up. I'll say that y'all's efforts matter. Y'all's sustainability efforts matter. Y'all may get tired of hearing us talking about it on occasion, but it helps with demand, ain't no doubt about it. So anyhow, I'll be quiet. We got a good companion loaded up for y'all. Aside from that today, the first thing we want to do is bring y'all a message from our sponsors at Phytogen.
Phytogen is pleased to sponsor the Cotton Companion, bringing you the latest news to help you thrive all season long.
So, all right, that is a timely Phytogen ad, as always, because at this moment, we want to bring y'all a brief custom content segment featuring our custom content editor, Robin Sickberg. She recently sat down and spoke with Dr. Jason Woodward, a Phytogen cotton development specialist for North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. So we want to bring you that custom interview segment right now.
Hello, I'm Robin Sittberg, Custom Content Editor for Meister Media Worldwide, publisher of Cotton Grower Magazine. And I'm here today with Dr. Jason Woodward, Phytogen Cotton Development Specialist for North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. So welcome to the program, Dr. Woodward.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's harvest time, and a lot of growers are working very hard to get the crop out of the field. And what are some of the things that growers should be looking for this year? I know nematodes is a problem that's probably uppermost in their minds.
Yeah, a lot of growers have been paying attention to fields throughout the season, and maybe they've noticed some weaker spots throughout the field and not really sure as to why they haven't responded to input. And that would be a good time to try to identify some of those weaker areas in a field.
Why is harvest a particularly good time to evaluate fields and take soil samples for nematodes?
If we look at nematode populations, they're really a function of temperature. So as we have warmer conditions throughout the growing season, by the end of the season, we have good reproduction, and our populations are at their highest levels toward the end of the season.
Why is soil sampling necessary? Why can't they just look at the overall, like you said, the weak areas of the field? Why is it necessary to take that extra step?
Yeah, so we've got a qualitative versus a quantitative measure. Those up and down areas, those poor performing areas within the field are kind of where we want to focus our attention. And looking at going in and pulling samples actually gives us an opportunity to evaluate and really hone in on what levels of the pests we're dealing with.
What are some tips for getting good soil samples? Because I know that's important.
Yeah, as we approach the harvest season, I think it's a good opportunity to go out and take a set of series of soil samples. We want to go into areas where cotton is planted, and different from pulling fertility samples, we really want to get into that root zone, anywhere from 5 to 8 inches deep, right where the roots are. We're hedging our bets on better characterizing where the nematodes are and getting a good snapshot of what those populations look like. In addition, we need to make sure that soil moisture is available. We don't need super saturated soils, but if we have extremely dry soils, that may affect the estimates that we're getting on those populations of nematodes.
And should they send the samples immediately? Is there kind of a lifetime between when it's collected and when it goes to the lab?
They're fairly flexible. It's always a good idea to send samples as soon as possible after the samples are pulled. Storage is important. Unlike pulling fertility samples, we can't leave them in the back of the truck or on the dash of the pickup. We need to keep those samples out of direct sunlight and get them shipped really within 1 to 2 days after pulling.
Thank you so much for the tips. I know it's important to get the soil samples done right and to really identify where these problem nematodes are, because they are such a problem. So thank you so much for being on the program.
Thanks again for having me.
Well, and always, growers can go to phytogen.com for more information.
Okay, a big thank you to Robin, as always, and to Dr. Woodward there. And with that, we're going to get things rolling with this 57th episode of the Cotton Companion, and it promises to be a good one. Jim is going to lead us in our news segment. He's going to be talking about, among other things, crop progress. I believe we just waited until, didn't it just come out today?
We have hot numbers to talk about.
Yeah, we waited late enough in the afternoon for that crop progress report to come out, so it's literally about maybe a half hour old right now.
The pixels are not even dry on the computer from USDA.
There you go. There you go. So we're going to be talking about that crop progress report, as well as where you could go to get some good Farm Bill navigation tips, and a couple other updates from around the industry like that. So after that, we're going to bring you an interview Jim recently conducted with Dr. John Robinson. He's a professor and extension economist with Texas A&M and has been a longtime source for cotton policy info and marketing info, and he's just about one of the most trusted analysts we can think of, so we are happy to have him join us. So, as you can tell, a great episode lined up for y'all. Without further ado, I want to turn it over to Jim here, who's going to lead us in a discussion of the news of the day. Go for it, Jim.
Thank you, Beck. As we mentioned, it's an afternoon. It is the afternoon that USDA releases its crop progress report for the week. So we have some brand new, fresh numbers to talk about. Basically, what the numbers show us for the report that was issued today is that optimal weather conditions are really pushing harvest quickly across the cotton belt. The report showed that open bolls, are still reporting open bolls at this point, are now reported in 83% of the crop. That's 6% increase in the past week, 8% ahead of the 5-year average for the date, and a 19% change since our last podcast. All of the cotton-producing states, with the exception of Kansas, are now reporting open bolls in 70% or more of their fields. The harvest percentage, which I think right now is the most important number, is sitting at 25% nationwide. That's a 9% jump in the past week, 5% ahead of 5-year average, and a 14% movement ahead since our last podcast. We have 8 states that are showing double-digit increases in harvested acres since last week's report, with 9 states ahead of their respective 5-year averages. And when you get down to looking at crop condition, we've talked for a number of episodes about how the numbers just kind of slide a percentage point or two, and that's still what we're seeing in this. Crop condition right now, we're looking at 39% of the crop is rated good to excellent, 42% is fair, and 19% is rated poor to very poor. Again, those numbers can slide a percentage point one way or the other at any point, and probably will continue until we get this crop completely out of the field. I want to talk a little bit about, Beck mentioned BASF and their E3 program. BASF has also launched a program called Operation Weed Eradication, and it's an initiative to help growers and partners eliminate troublesome on-farm weeds through cultural practices chemical control, and enhanced diligence. Now, they quoted some research by Stratus Ag that showed that nearly 75% of growers nationwide, so this is not just cotton, this is all crops nationwide, are dealing with glyphosate-resistant weeds in their fields, and that today's management practices are likely not sustainable for long-term control of problem weeds, particularly such as pigweed. So the Operation Weed Eradication is going to take a balanced approach to utilize cultural practices such as conventional tillage, chemical control by rotating chemistries, and in-field diligence on things such as hand weeding to help growers eliminate problem weeds. BASF is going to build a coalition of industry leaders to help develop specific customer guidelines for weed eradication, and they will be launching an educational effort to support the entire program. If you're interested in a little more detail, you can find it online at agro, that's agro, .basf.us.
I see. I could be in charge of that hand weeding element for him. It's character building. That's what I did in my teen year. I wonder, do people still have chopping crews the way they had in the early '90s when I was a kid and I was out there?
When we were kids,
middle schooler.
Yeah, when we were working on the farms, it was just family time in the fields is what it was.
Right. But really, like, it was that window before Roundup came along.
Right.
And so I wonder, do kids and probably a lot of them are driving tractors now. I don't know that I wasn't trusted to do that. I had the hoe. I was trusted with a hoe in my hand. So
it's probably the safest thing.
Yeah, for everybody.
Absolutely. Next, we want to talk about Phytogen and the Cotton Incorporated's Blue Jeans Go Green denim recycling program. They sort of banded together early this year to help organize denim collection drives at industry events, and they have renewed this collaboration for 2020. The Blue Jeans Go Green program, great program. It's an initiative that upcycles denim garments into premium housing insulation and keeps denim out of landfills. In working with the Cotton Incorporated program this year, Phytogen was able to collect over 7,400 items through donation drives at cotton industry events and at company locations. Next year, Phytogen is already scheduling the denim collection drives at the Mid-South Farm and Gin Show, at the Texas Cotton Ginner Show, and the Desert Ag Conference. They rely a lot on local FFA or 4-H chapters to help with some of these drives, and there are some prizes involved for the chapter that can bring in the most denim for recycling at these during these drives. But certainly anyone is welcome to participate and drop off old used denim during these three events. In fact, I pointed out to my lovely wife yesterday, pulled a pair of jeans out that I usually do for yard work, and I was kind of going, I really don't think I should wear these out in public anymore.
Right, good for the backyard, not the front yard.
I'm not even sure they're good for the backyard anymore. But so anyway, yeah, they're tucked away and waiting for the next recycling program that comes to this area. As Beck mentioned, if you're interested in Farm Bill implementation details, those of you who may not have been able to participate in the National Cotton Council's Farm Bill education webinars in September, you still can get the information via a YouTube video that features Dr. Jody Campeche. She's NCC's Vice President of Economics and Policy Analysis. There's a 24-minute video that is compiled from information provided during those webinars, and it's accessible on the NCC Farm Bill Resources page at the organization's website, and that's www.cotton.org. Now, each of the video is 5 major topics, and each of these topics are also available on separate YouTube links. And they cover things like the key differences in the Title I programs, the seed cotton marketing year average price calculation, seed cotton PLC, ARC provisions and examples, base acres, payment yield update, marketing loan provisions, payment limits and eligibility, and ARC PLC election and enrollment, eligibility for stacks, the SCO, yield updates, disaster assistance, and an MFP program. This Farm Bill Resources page on the council site also includes the webinar presentation itself, and it is being continuously updated as new information becomes available. So nice resource there for you if you weren't able to participate in that, and certainly as you move toward your planning for 2020. In keeping in line with the following the council at this point, again, they are encouraging cotton farmers to complete any of the USDA agricultural surveys that come your way this fall. The cotton producers are going to be asked to report production practices and chemical use as part of the Agricultural Resource Management Survey. So if you receive a survey, please complete it online, or if you prefer, you can schedule an appointment with the USDA representative to help you with that survey completion. Please make sure you have your pesticide and fertilizer spray records to speed the process up a little bit. And then finally, a couple of quick items that have happened here within the last couple of weeks. One we talked a little bit about in our last podcast in our interview with Steve Verrett, but it's now official. Plains Cotton Growers has moved to their new office headquarters at 8303 Aberdeen Avenue in Lubbock, Texas. I don't think we mentioned the address last time.
Yeah.
And if you go back and listen to the podcast and the interview with Steve, you'll find out that the new building was designed to meet the specific needs of the organization, including a much larger conference room and kitchen for events and meetings, particularly for hosting their biweekly Plains Cotton Advisory Group meetings, for which space for participants have become severely limited in their old offices.
I got to get out to one of those. Sean Wade, my buddy out there, he invited me to one of those, and it was a long time ago, and it was a little too early, I think, was the problem. This is about a decade ago. But anyhow, now that y'all got the good space for it out there, I got to be out there on a Friday morning.
Yeah, we'll have to be out there. I have been warned, by the way, that you can't just walk in and sit anywhere.
Oh, there's a pecking order.
There is pecking order, and people, it's sort of like church.
Yeah. Yeah.
People have there's certain areas that they like to sit, and that's fine. That's great. We're used to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next thing I want to mention is the new Lone Star Gin in Pampa, Texas. Welcomes several hundred folks up to its open house in late September. It's a new 6-stand operation. It's located northwest of Amarillo up in the northern high plains, and it was built to produce close to 150,000 bales during a normal production year. So as harvest approaches in that area, it's good to know that there's some additional ginning capacity available to get that crop in and finished. And just a continuing reminder that if you're planning to attend the 2020 Beltwide Cotton Conferences that come up January 8th through 10th at the JW Marriott in Austin, Texas, conference registration and housing reservations are now available online at www.cotton.org/beltwide. And that's it.
Very good, Jim. Well, I appreciate that, as always. And, we'll roll from there right into our interview that you conducted with Dr. Robinson. Now, did you talk with him over the phone, or did you get this when you were out in Texas?
No, we did it. We just did this by phone.
Okay, very good. Dr. John Robinson probably needs no introduction from this group, but he's been out there in the cotton industry doing policy analysis and economic analysis for a long time. And so y'all will want to hear what he has to say. We will bring you that interview right now.
Welcome to this edition's Market Minute. Today we're joined again by Dr. John Robinson, who's professor and extension economist with Texas A&M University in College Station. John, welcome back.
Thank you, Jim.
I checked our schedule, our production schedule on the Cotton Companion, and we last visited with you back in May. So from your perspective, how would you kind of describe the last 4.5 months in this market?
Well, it's been, I would say, probably disappointing from a grower perspective, and disappointing on several fronts. Back in May, we were at the tail end of what had been a very long, wet spring situation, which, we thought wet is good, moisture's good, better yields, lower abandonment, and then during that May period that we were visiting, there was a lot of unfolding uncertainty about getting the crop in certain places because it was too wet. But I think still in the back of people's minds and in the back of my mind was, some spots will be washed out, but that which gets planted will still be well off in terms of moisture, and maybe we'll have above average yields and low abandonment and produce a lot of cotton. Then it turned out in my world, then it turned off really dry, quit raining in July, and we've had a hot summer, and so the crops had to contend with that. And while I and USDA and every other analyst I can think of have been downsizing and downshifting our expectations of production, we still have plenty of production coming. Mm-hmm. So what that means is we're not getting a huge price rally on unrealized potential in a short crop. The crop's not short enough to give us a boost in prices. So what we've had in the last 4 months is a stair-step down, a ratcheting down of prices. Some of that's been associated with a tweet about trade things that's not realized, or anyway, the trade conflict with China is still with us. That's just kind of added uncertainty. But I think what's really been unfolding is we've got ample supplies, and demand just in general, beyond the trade issue, demand is weak, and it appears to be weak because economies around the world are slowing. So slowing economies means just less mill use, and we got more cotton than we need. That's kind of the unfolding picture.
Okay, I know. Looking at some of the things you've written over the last couple of months, I think after last month, after the September supply and demand report was released, I read you compared the report to a tiring, hot, sweaty dove hunt, where the only thing you reached your limit on was the beer in the cooler. Now, I think that's a great analogy. And would you like to explain your reasoning on that?
Yeah, sure. So dove season in Texas starts in early September, and September is a miserably hot time of the year.
Not great for hunting.
So yeah, maybe for drinking cold beer. So this September WASDE, it's kind of a part two of a benchmark supply and demand report where hopefully we get from USDA a picture of what the crop is, how big it is or how small it is. And I think some people thought, well, we got this. The August report didn't go far enough trimming production, and they were expecting a lot out of the September report, and they didn't get it. I mean, I think if I get my reports straight, USDA cut 700,000 bales out of the U.S. number, but it still left us with 7.4 million bales of ending stocks, which is as bearish a number as anybody could serve up. So there just wasn't, fundamentally, there wasn't anything satisfactory out of that. It's a bearish number. Now, I think we have a new report coming, the October WASDE is coming next week.
Yes,
and they're going to, they've been doing what they usually do, which is incremental adjustments. They'll make a few more incremental adjustments. They'll probably trim some more expected production. But the thing is, when they do that, they typically turn around and say, okay, well, less production, less exportable surpluses, and they'll cut the export number. So I really don't see. I don't know that we're going to have less than 7 million bales of ending stocks, which is just a huge number. It's a huge year-over-year increase from the previous year, and it's just a big level period. It's fundamentally bearish. I don't see what kind of adjustment from USDA gets us out of that scenario. So the recipe for prices where they are, basically, cash prices somewhere above a loan rate level, I don't really see what gets us away from that.
Okay. If I'm a grower and I've worked my way through this season and I'm just trying my best to get finished and get this crop out of the field and look ahead, what do growers need to be doing right now to kind of get themselves ready for next year? And not just from a production perspective, from a marketing and overall business perspective.
Yeah. Well, I guess the first consideration is what do you do with the crop that you're harvesting now? And it's kind of tough if they hadn't priced it. The opportunity for profitable prices went away sometime in the spring. I expect a lot of cotton with, the demand from merchants, the business activity, the buying is at a very low level. Merchants aren't extending themselves, and I don't blame them in this uncertain environment. They're probably just going to wait to get a lot of cheap cotton out of the loan, and I expect growers for cash flow purposes are going to put a lot of cotton in the loan. So I guess the only thing I can say that's good about these low prices is that the storage in the loan is subsidized because it doesn't pay to store it on your own nickel.
Right.
The market isn't going to pay for that. If you look at the spread between December 19 and July 20 futures, it's not big enough to pay for storing cotton all that time. The market is saying sell it.
Yeah.
Sooner rather
hold
than
on
later.
to it. Go ahead.
That's right. Don't hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Uncle Sam is subsidizing the storage, in which case, put it in the loan and just kind of see what happens.
Right.
So that's going to contribute to the situation. The other kind of cold-blooded economist's statement about low prices is, what they say, low prices is the cure to low prices. So there's going to be fewer acres planted next year between a lot of growers, this year sticking in their craw and probably a tough banker. They may not get financing to grow cotton, and relative to alternative corn and oilseed crops, cotton doesn't look as good this year, or for 20.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at 20 futures of corn compared to cotton, the ratio favors corn a lot more than it did when you figured that ratio last year. So I expect there's going to be a big shift out, and I expect that we'll plant 9 or 10 or so million as opposed to 13 or 14 million. So you take a big cut in acres, and if you just stick average yields and abandonment onto that, you come up with a smaller sized crop, and we'll whittle down ending stocks for 20, the way I'm penciling them out now. And that would suggest that, the prices that we have now fundamentally might improve somewhat for the 20 crop marketing year. But that puts growers in a tough spot. If you're going to put seed in the ground and the prices are still low now
Right.
for 20 futures won't pencil out as a profit. What I would tell growers is they need to have a marketing plan to take advantage of rallies when they happen, and don't expect that if prices start going up, they're just going to march steadily higher and go up and stay up. I don't think that'll be the pattern at all. That happens when there's an expanding economy and booming demand and kind of a long-term upward pull. I don't really see that in the 20 story. What I see is, we have a chance for futures to go over 70 and maybe get to the mid-70s. But it'll probably happen on weather markets, and it'll happen on a policy announcement or a tweet or something about, a positive resolution to the trade deal.
Mm-hmm.
Things that happen that, if the hedge funds jump in and go long, get out of this long-time short net position they've been in, those things happen in bursts, and they come and they go. So I would do some pricing and hedging when those opportunities happen. When the market shoots up, I'd price some, and then if they have another one of those kind of events, I would price some more. I wouldn't just hold and hope all the way to the end.
Right.
We probably will have higher prices in the 20 situation, but like I say, it may come in volatile bursts.
Yeah, they're not going to be there when it's time to put seed in the ground.
Yeah, they may not be there when you're harvesting bales in the fall
Yeah.
of 20. They may have happened several times during the spring, and that kind of thing.
Well, it's certainly been an interesting year for watching the market and seeing the impact of various, I guess, outside forces on the market at this point. So, John, thank you as always for your time and your insight on this crazy market that we're living with right now. And we'll be checking back with you here in a few months to see if some of your predictions or statements actually bear fruit.
Well, I'll be interested to see how it works out myself.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. We'll be right back with the rest of this edition of the Cotton Companion.
Okay, well, we want to give, again, a big thank you to Dr. Robinson. He's a guy who's been out in these cotton industry trenches with farmers in Texas as well as across the belt for a long time now. And so, again, we know he's somebody that y'all appreciate hearing from. Okay, so that's going to just about do it for this installment of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to thank Phytogen for sponsoring us, and we want to thank you, dear listener, for joining us as always. If you like what you're hearing, please tell your buddies about this podcast. They can get to it in 3 easy ways. The first is going to cottongrower.com/companion. The second, you could subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever it is that you find your podcast. Simply search for the Cotton Companion there. The third way, the best way, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-news, which hits your email inbox like clockwork on Tuesday morning. It has all of the news of the week, the most important news of the week. And you could get to that by simply going to www.cottongrower.com/subscribe, and you can follow the steps from there. It's quick, easy, and you won't regret it. So, make sure you're following us on social media as well. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter, and on Facebook you can find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine. We hope you're enjoying our latest issue, which at this point is the September issue, although the October one will be getting there any day now.
Any day now, yes.
Yeah, actually it may be in your mailbox before this pod gets to you, so be looking for it. Yeah. We're working on the November one now. I had to find my spot there. We're working on the November one now. Y'all are going to like that one. So, this podcast is produced by the great Mr. Tyler Hatch. He works at the mothership, Meister Media Worldwide, in beautiful Willoughby, Ohio. My name is Beck Barnes, and I'm going to be back with you in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Cotton Companion. For now, on behalf of my own Cotton Companion, Jim Steadman, we wish you and your farm all the best.
And he works all day. God made it fun.
Phytogen thanks you for listening to this edition of the Cotton Companion. To learn how you can thrive with Phytogen, go to phytogen.com.